All right, fellow DJs. This morning, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Intimidator Spot 360. I picked these up at a fraction of the cost of new off of Musician's Friend as a restock item. They were also having a sale on the restock, so I want to say I paid $500 a piece, $530 after taxes, to get these to my house. So. Alright, so I'm down in the DJ Man Cave, and I've got a couple of fixtures set up here. The one that we're most interested today is the Intimidator Spot 360 by Chauvet. This is a 100-watt moving head, and just to make some comparisons today, we're going to compare it next to this 90-watt spot fixture that I bought off of Amazon by a company called, Chinese company called Imrelax. They make a whole bunch of different fixtures. I like the Chauvet stuff, and at the end of this video you guys can determine if you think it's worth the extra cost for a name brand fixture. Just to compare it, so I've got my two on the ends there. I've got my two Chauvet fixtures, the 90 watter in the middle by Imrelax. And then just to compare it to this big guy, I picked this one off of AliExpress. This is made by Riukoe lighting, again another Chinese manufacturer. As it says there on the side, it's a beam spot wash fixture with a 380 watt, I believe it's a Philips 17R bulb in it. That's the first non-LED fixture I've purchased, and that thing is stupid bright. But anyway, we're not comparing that today. I just put it out to compare sizes here. The Chauvet fixture compared to a similar 90 watt Chinese fixture, you can see there the Chauvet it's quite a bit bigger. And I can certainly tell you it weighs a lot more too. But heck, that's not why you're watching this video. You want to see some footage of what these things can do. So let's get to it. Alright, so the first thing I want to test is whether or not this fixture actually really is 100 watts. So I've got it plugged into my Kilowatt EZ, and we're looking with the shutter and the light off. We're looking at a draw of about 23 watts. Let's go ahead and turn the lamp on. Give it a second. And we see we jumped up to about 160 watts. So yeah, certainly you would expect at least a 100-watt jump when the lamp comes on. So that's always good when the wattage goes up by at least what the manufacturer says. So we're looking at a 100+ watt jump when you've got the lamp on. So just sitting there in a static mode with the light full on, got about 160 watts. So I've got the 5-facet prism going on this with the color wheel spinning and the gobo rotating itself. I still have the head stationary, but we can see at that level we're consuming about 160 watts. I did have it moving a little bit ago, and when it's moving and doing the same function, it was a little bit over 200 watts. So I would say at most this thing might, if you've got it going crazy, you might hit 250, but certainly no more than 300 watts, just so you can plan for how much power you're going to be using if you have a couple of these lights plugged into a circuit. So I would say if you plan 300 watts, you're never going to exceed that. So I know a lot of people ask about how loud these things are. I'm getting a little bit of a high-pitched whine from either the gobo or the prism. Not sure which one it is. I could turn them down, but it's pretty quiet. You can hear my voice pick up, and obviously gets up into the 70s there, but when I shut up, it's about 56, which is pretty quiet. I'll do that. Same test with this guy, and you'll see that the Chinese ones are quite a bit louder on the fan. So alright, so the second fixture we're looking at is the 90 watt Imrelax moving head. This is a, like I said, 90 watt fixture versus the 100 watt fixture for the Chauvet. With the lamp on, stationary, we're about 122, 123 watts. So kind of what you'd expect. Let me turn the lamp off here. Drops down to about 14 watts. So again, what you would expect. And goes back up. Okay. How does it compare sound-wise to a Chauvet? It's about 10 decibels louder on the fan. So definitely noticeable. Again, if you're on a stage, probably not a big deal. But if you need absolute silence, the Chauvet's quite a bit quieter. So let's take some hard readings from both these lights side by side. Alright, so I have both fixtures at full power, set at a white light, and I've adjusted them so they have about the same diameter, area of light, focus, zoom, so to speak. The 90 watt Chinese fixture does not zoom in. It does focus, it just doesn't zoom in. So what you get is what you get. As you can see there on the garage door, it's on the right. On the left, I did have to manually zoom the Chauvet fixture and then adjust the focus. It's kind of hard to tell from the footage which one is brighter and which one isn't. In person, it is very clear that the Chauvet fixture on the left is much brighter. And being a guy of somewhat science, you're probably saying, yeah, well, prove it to me. Okay. Well, I like to prove things and let numbers speak for themselves. So I've got myself here a light sensor. It's let's see, put it on its max setting. So what this will do is the sensor at top, I know it's kind of dark, but you'll see here in a second, captures the amount of lux coming in, and it'll record the max setting. So I will go to the Imrelax 90 watt fixture first. Hold it there for a second. Alright, so we come back and we have a measure of 1,190 lux coming off the Imrelax fixture. So, I mean, not bad for a relatively inexpensive fixture. But let's see what that 10 extra watts on a Chauvet fixture is like. Holy moly. 4,370 lux. Yeah. That's 3 times as bright, just about. So, certainly, if you're looking for brightness, you can't always follow wattage. So, certainly you want to pay attention to lux charts if you can find them from the different manufacturers. Because certainly the Chauvet fixture, that thing's going to throw light a whole lot further. And I can tell you what, even though they're LED fixtures, when you put your hand in front of the Chauvet fixture, I mean, it feels like there's an actual lamp in there. It's warm to it feels warm on your hand, versus the Chinese fixture. It just feels like a fluorescent or LED bulb. It's just, there's no heat coming off of it. So yeah, I don't. Alright, so I'm back in the man cave. When I started making the first set of videos today, I have actually acquired a new toy, and I want to compare it. So we started out looking at the set of Intimidator Spot 360s that I picked up. Well, I wanted to try out their big brother, so I got my hands on an Intimidator Spot 475Z, which is the most powerful Intimidator in the lineup. 250 watt LED light coming out of that. And really, to compare it, I fired up the my Riukoe light, which I got straight from China. As it says there, it's a beam spot wash 380 watt fixture. Now, this takes a 17R Phillips bulb, so yeah, a little bit more power coming out of that. But surprisingly enough, when we compare the two, the Chauvet 475Z is on the left, the Riukoe is on the right. You can clearly see that, and they're both zoomed in pretty good, that the LED fixture gives a much more uniform light pattern. You can see there's a little bit of a focused light effort there, and then it kind of dies out a little bit around the ring. The Riukoe is a lot worse in terms of its uniformity. You can clearly see it's much brighter in the center than it is around the perimeter. I've got that shining on my garage door, obviously, and I'm about, that's about 15 feet away. That's about 17 feet away. Alright, so what about the price difference between these two? Because obviously everybody's interested in cost. So that fixture right there, the Riukoe 380, it's got a list price of about $1,100. And since I ordered it straight from China, there was some taxes to be paid. And then thank you, Mr. Trump, for your trade war with China. That fixture was expensive enough that it got hit with duty or import taxes of about 30%, which sucks. So depending on what how this trade war pans out, you might be able to get that a whole lot cheaper than what I paid for the Intimidator 475Z. I bought that from Guitar Center with a 15% off coupon. To get shipped to my house, it was right about $1,400. So price-wise, with the duty fees on this one compared to the Chauvet, there really isn't a whole lot of cost difference. Bad thing about this guy, the bulb lasts 1,500 hours, and after 1,500 hours, it might last longer, but basically they say after that it's time to change it, because the last thing you want to do is have the bulb pop during an event. And these are the same bulbs that they put in like video projectors, and if you've ever been around one of those, when they pop, it's small. It sounds like a small explosion, and quite frankly, it scares people when they do pop. So you certainly would want to heed that 1,500 hour recommendation. The crappy thing is that's a $200 bulb in that fixture to replace. So there certainly is some ongoing costs associated with this guy. 50,000 hours out of the LED light source on that. So certainly factor that in. Alright, so what's the big difference between the two? This uses a color wheel. This is a CMY light pattern in that. So this one can make an infinite amount of colors. and it can transition between colors very smoothly. Very similar to if you had like an RGB wash light. You can adjust the colors, obviously, in thousands of ways. So definitely a thumbs up or a bonus for that guy. You can get a Chauvet fixture with CMY, but it jumps the price up substantially, and you're more or less getting into their professional line lights if you want that feature. Alright, so looking back at their power, you can clearly see the focus light in the on the Riukoe on the right versus the Chauvet on the left. And I did have my lux meter out, or my light meter out, and although they look pretty similar side to side in a video, and honestly they look pretty similar even just standing here looking at them in person. The Chauvet, it peaks out at about 21,000 lumens in the middle. The Riukoe, if I get it right on that intense spot, it's about 24, almost 25,000 lumens. So it's, I mean, it certainly is brighter. So, I mean, the numbers don't lie, but standing here side by side, you almost can't tell a difference. So they're very close. All right, the next discernible difference is how much these things can zoom down to a spot. So on the left is the Chauvet fixture. That's the narrowest that it gets compared to the spot, and literally that is a spot. I mean, it's almost too bright to look at just because it's reflecting off that white garage surface. So certainly if you were in a theater or a stage where you needed to put a spot on somebody from far away, the Chauvet fixture isn't going to cut it. It obviously is throwing too much of a too wide of a spot pattern, whereas the Riukoe really gets just pencil thin. So if you're using it for stage productions, whatever, the Riukoe wins, hand down. Alright, at the other end of the spectrum, on the left we have the Chauvet fixture. It's been spread out all the way. So for its, I guess its least amount of zoom, that's as big as the beam is. When I zoom the Riukoe all the way out, it turns into more of a wash function, so it doesn't want to do a hard spot like the Chauvet fixture is doing. But let me turn the Chauvet fixture off and you can kind of see how big the Riukoe is. Sorry. So you can see the edge is there on the blue, and it goes almost all the way to the wall of my garage. So when you start to zoom the Riukoe out, it just turns into a huge wash fixture. And again, this is only, what I say, 15 feet away from the wall, and the Chauvet is a little bit further back, which obviously benefits it when you're trying to compare these two features. I think the last thing I'm going to do is kind of compare what I think are some of the cool features of both of these, or the coolest feature of both of them. Alright, so do you ever look at videos for a fixture and say, wow, that's a really cool effect? So this is my favorite effect from the Riukoe, and what makes it so phenomenal is this is either an 8 or a 16 facet prism. I think it's 16. So I've got the prism engaged, the prism is rotating, but it also has kind of like a star feature gobo that is also rotating. So you get kind of that, just that mystic rotating kind of trippy feel. And it's, I've got that focused in about the best that I can do. And I mean, it's not perfectly focused, as anybody knows that plays with prisms. It's hard to get the whole feature in perfect focus, but with as little as the holes are in that gobo, I think that's pretty good. It's pretty tight, and you can see, I mean, it's going from basically floor to ceiling, so that's about 8 feet. So if I had this across the room, it would be a huge effect. Huge. So again, that's what sold me on this fixture. And the neat thing about the Riukoe is it's got 3 different gobo wheels in it. One rotates, one static, and then it's got kind of another one that has a slotted gobo in it, which I haven't seen that on any other fixtures, but it's basically, it's like a wave pattern that covers, I don't know, probably not quite half of the gobo wheel, and it can bounce back and forth, so it looks like your light fixture is just doing kind of a wave. And it's pretty neat. I still don't think it's as neat as what I'm showing you right now, but yeah, pretty cool. Let me go back over here. And show you, turn this one off and show you what I like in the, coming out of the Chauvet. And I'm doing this all on Show Express, so bear with me here. Alright, let's go to, turn the Chauvet on. Turn the other one off. Alright, so kind of a similar thing from the Chauvet. I believe this is a 6 prism rotating feature. The gobo itself is not rotating. It's just the prism is rotating. And honestly, I'm kind of a little disappointed because that's about as clear as I can get the Chauvet fixture focused. But what is phenomenal is how much that covers. I mean, clearly that's going well above the, it's projecting up onto the ceiling and well down onto the floor. So the neat thing about that is, certainly if you're in a smaller room but you kind of have a big area to illuminate, like a whole dance floor, the Chauvet would probably be the better bet. And I mean, it's just still cool visual, but I don't think it's as cool as the Riukoe. But I don't know. You guys can comment and decide. I think that's really about all that I'm going to show you on these fixtures. I mean, there's other videos that show what each individual gobo does on each fixture. And certainly as I get these out into venues and events, I'll take some additional footage and probably make another video just for the individual units. But for a similar cost, I would say really you can't go wrong with either one of these. Maybe a slight heads up or slight bigger thumbs up for the Chauvet fixture, just because it's got the longer life on the LED light source. But certainly if you could get the Chinese fixture for without the duty taxes, it'd be several $100s less than the Chauvet. And 1,500 hours is quite a bit of hours if you think of this in like events or performances. A 4-hour wedding, 6-hour wedding, whatever you have. I mean, that's still a couple hundred weddings before you would have to change the bulb out. So if you were a super hardcore DJ using this every weekend, I mean, you'd be changing a bulb out maybe once a year. So, and that's if you were using it the whole time at the wedding, which clearly you're not. It's going to be kind of on and off throughout the event. So, yeah. What do you guys think?